is there's not enough money. People got checks right away and started feeling better, but that is all temporary. I believe will be the biggest economic event of all history, mainly because there's never been a fiat currency so intertwined with the whole world. People say, well, at least they didn't tax us. Wrong. That's a tax. Inflation is a tax because they steal value from your money. It's the people who are struggling and are out on the street. It's not going to make them very happy. And that's social disorder. And that will come along with the crack up boom. The markets know what's going on. That's the people and how they're reacting. And markets, when governments get them out of whack, too much money, interest rates artificial, and all those things that they do, and prices going up much too fast, the market is saying you have to liquidate. The market is always demanding it work. I think so often about the Bretton Woods agreement because it was really serving our interests and people warned about it. But, for a long time, the market was saying, this can't be. You're putting too much money and the gold that you have it is inadequate. And then it took a lot of years until finally in 1971, it broke down. So the facts, ruled over the politician. And that's the way this is right now. The facts, they cannot contain this. I should say it that way. They can sort of contain it, but they can't correct it because of the political factors, because the people are there, they're accustomed to it. And the most recent history shows, well, the Fed usually pulls us out of it. Congress will pull us out of it. Look how well they sent those. Look how quickly they sent all those checks out for COVID. People got checks right away and started feeling better. But that is all temporary. And one thing that you will always hear, we're still hearing it, but you will have to hear the end. Now, Mises says they will finally witness that what the inflation is coming from, and that's printing too much money. But right now, we're still in the phase where the shouting and screaming is there's not enough money. And that's everybody from the military industrial complex, all the bankers, consumers, the unemployed, whatever, to the point where we subsidize the unemployed, where they're given so much that there's no incentive to go back to work, and all of a sudden there's a shortage. If you talk about malinvestment and disturbing the economy, I mean, we're really into a mess right now. And all I can say about what to expect, I do not believe we're going to escape having a horrendous mess, the crack up. And that event, I believe, will be the biggest economic event of all history, mainly because there's never been a fiat currency so intertwined with the whole world. And if people finally one day wakes up, which they won't wake up tomorrow and say, this is coming, I believe these guys, I'm getting rid of my dollar. But they're starting to do that. And it's when the consensus say the dollar is not going to be recovered, we can't trust the Fed, we can't trust the Congress, and we're fearful now of our loss of liberties, and we're losing our liberties over this COVID thing. And they're also going to say, why do we have this empire? It just proved once again empire building goes badly, and it demands so much wealth. It now is determined that $2.3 trillion was spent on fighting that war in Afghanistan. And that has to be one of the most ridiculous expenditures ever. But that money is really printed money. People say, well, at least they didn't tax it. Wrong. That's a tax. Inflation is a tax because they steal value from your money. So if you double the money supply, prices double, not exactly that way, but the prices go up. And that is essentially the tax because the purchasing power of your dollar goes down. It's identical to the tax collector come and knock on your door to collect the taxes. But this is much more acceptable because the government can get away with it. Because right now they say 60% of the people don't pay income tax. Well, that's good, but it's not good that they keep spending. And right now, I think along with the crack up boom, the thing that I fear the most is the maldistribution of wealth. It keeps getting worse. And initially, until we fix this, that is going to get much, much worse. And when you look at the statistic of the middle class and the poor, how they keep getting poorer, I mean, the numbers are there. And the number now, we used to talk about how many millionaires are there in the country. Then it was, a person has $1 billion? What is he going to do with it? What about 10 billion? What if he's a trillionaire? Yeah, people must think and they don't even know what to do with the money. Yeah, to tell you the truth, it keeps building and building. All we know is the people who are struggling and are out on the street, it's not going to make them very happy. And that's social disorder, and that will come along with the crack up boom. I think what we're going to see shortly is that more people will recognize that the Band-Aids don't work anymore. The injury to the system is much greater, and a few Band-Aids here and there and printing a little bit more money and shifting the wealth around, it's not going to work, and that's what they're recognizing. So we're moving now, I think, more rapidly each day toward the crack up boom. But we do not know, nobody knows exactly when that'll happen, because things can pop up rather quickly. Just think of the policies in Afghanistan, how that has deteriorated. So things can change very quickly, and they can change in the financial markets. So the foundation has eroded. I don't think that in next week we're going to have the crack up boom and everybody will recognize it. I think it's going to continue to deteriorate and get much worse, but there will be a time when people will give up, and that will be the end of the American empire, and it's going to be end of the dollar being the reserve currency of the world. There probably will be a dollar, but it will not be the reserve currency of the world. So right now, the big discussion is, will they try another Band-Aid? And they're talking, well, the Federal Reserve even is saying, hey, maybe this is getting out of control. I guess what we better do is tighten a little bit and see if we can save it. Well, that's the same rationale that Nixon had, and it didn't solve the problem. Ultimately, it made things much worse. But the Fed will talk about it. They might try it like they did a couple years ago, and the markets don't like it, so they go back to printing money like crazy. But the Fed, with plans to tighten, raise interest rates, and shrink the expansion of money supply, it's not going to solve the problem. It's too ingrained. There's too many people totally dependent. And one thing that the banks and the big companies and the military industrial complex and the recipients of the welfare state, both rich and poor, they're really not gold people. They might be indifferent to it, but they're not friends of gold. They're not arguing for the gold standard because big government is necessary. Big government doesn't exist with a gold standard, and they don't like that. So that is the problem that they have, but I think we should be prepared, and there's so many different things people can do, and I could list them, and people should work on that, on trying to protect themselves. You have to have political protection, you have to have physical protection, but the truth is, the only ultimate protection is a renewed interest in personal liberty, because I claim that if you had all the stock market and all the welfare state just dissipate, and what was left was personal liberty, you can do what you want, you can't steal, just go to work and keep what you earn. If you really had that, I think we'd be back on our feet rather quickly. But the idea that we can, take advantage of other people through the inflation system is one thing. But the whole idea that when people need something, they sort of still reject the notion that they should be able to steal from their neighbors, even though there's too much of that going on. But they ask the government. We have to understand that when the government comes in and destroys the wealth and has wealth redistribution through the printing of money, that is theft. And it's a moral problem as much as it's an economic problem. And you can't say the people, should follow the rules and not steal and cause violence, and yet the government can do it. that means the government has to be reined in. If the government is reined in and their sole effort should be to make sure that people have their freedom and a right to keep what they earn, believe me, I think our crisis would be over rather quickly.